Hello guys, how are we doing? Welcome to the second episode of the map guide series we've got going on here. Today's video is going to be on Al Bagra Fortress. We're going to be looking at the spawns on Hardpoint Al Bagra, how to perfect them, how to rotate, how to block, and where exactly you need to sit to better your chance of winning the map. The previous episode covered hydroelectric, so make sure you guys check that out if you haven't already and you would like to. But yeah, without further ado, let's crack on. So there are three things throughout this video that I'm going to mention. And there are three things that affect the spawns when you're playing Call of Duty. First thing is going to be your enemy team positioning. Second is going to be your team's positioning. And thirdly, and most importantly, is going to be what hardpoint you're on at the moment. So spawns differ depending on each hardpoint, as you guys probably know. But you do need to think about where your team are and where the enemy are in order to be able to read spawns effectively. It's also worth noting that I haven't managed to cover the thousands of potential spawns that are actually in the game, but I'm hoping to cover 99% of possible scenarios for you guys today, just so that you're ready, you're prepared for most cases. But yeah, unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to cover maybe 1% of situations, but other than that, we're going to have everything covered. So, kick it off with P1 on Al Bagra. So this is the fountain side of the map on the right. You've then got like the P2 side here, where you've got the stage, the street, and then middle of the map with the horse just here. P1 is obviously in this corner. You get off the rip, you either spawn this side or here. The ideal spawns you want for this hill are pink. They're pink spawns back here because first things first, it's really easy to trap people into this blue spawn. And second thing is P2 is here. So whenever we're thinking about getting spawns for the new hill, for the current hill, you want to be considering where's the next hard point. So pink spawns are the best spawns here, and you want to try and avoid getting into those blue spawns. Obviously, if you spawn there, you want to try and break out. So in order to block, so off the rip here, you want to make sure that you're sort of blocking the spawn back here, because the worst thing is people push too far up and the enemy team spawn behind you. If you want to guarantee that they can't spawn in either of these pink areas, what you need to do is sit in this sort of area. You can sit top double steps looking over P1, and then you've pretty much got help on P1 and also blocking spawns at the same time. You can sort of do a similar thing running through art here, but generally speaking, if you want to be extra safe, make sure you're sat back here, and that'll block both of these pink circles. 99% of the time, 90% of the time, say, the enemy team will be spawning on either the blue of these. So what's common in this situation is when the purple spawns have got the setup at P1, you've got someone on hill, someone blocking spawns, maybe someone top art or top double windows, watching them run out here. However, there is a very, very slim chance that the enemy team can spawn on either of these yellow rings. It depends where you are, it depends where the enemy team are. So what I like to do is have someone in open arch or generally watching P2 to make sure that they can't flank through this way. The way to block either of these spawns is you can sit in art. So there's a little bit of a different color here. If you set dub steps, you can sort of see your line of sight into P2, into this spawn, so they won't spawn there because of that line of sight. And you're also blocking P1, which is why this is such a money position to hold when an enemy team dies. And then to block this one here, if you sort of sat P1, you can see across it and you're just blocking it using your line of sight. Now, the only reason an enemy would spawn up here is if one of them managed to get behind you and you're blocking here. So let's say we've got a player blocking pink spawns, an enemy team manages to get behind. As long as you're blocking these yellow spawns, you will be fine. However, because the enemy is pushed through, they've sort of got a semi-squad spawns here. The people on the blue team will end up spawning close if they get any deaths. So you do want to make sure that if you notice anyone's down, make sure you've sort of got general people over the map and don't let anybody through. That's the key thing. But yeah, and then from there, obviously, when you've got pink spawns or even when you get yellow spawns, it's good, happy days, because then you can set up for P2. P2 is a bit more of a simple one. So bad spawns are pretty much in the same place over at the fountain because it's the other side of the map. But that's a really fast spawn. That's the ideal situation where you want the enemy to spawn. The primary spawns you're going to have here are the pink ones. And in order to block all of the pink ones, you sort of want to be in this pink area here. So sort of sat backside of the map, it's fairly logical. And obviously it goes without saying, if you want to block one of these rings, make sure you're in or around that, or you're looking at that as you would at any other spawn. So when you're in P2, make sure no one's spawning behind you by having someone in this sort of general area. Now, if no one is blocking yellow, which is covered by the yellow area, so if no one's P1 or no one's sort of top double or channeling out open or anything like that, the enemy team will spawn really close. And that's okay, because at the end of the day, you've still got good spawns. But that makes it almost a 50-50 over the hill. And what can happen is that can eventually spawn you out. So what you'd like to do, if you're on the favourable side here, is push through, block the yellow spawns, and then what will eventually happen then is that as long as you've got someone blocking these pink areas, because that's the key, you can't push too far forward without someone being in this pink area, because otherwise they'll spawn back here. Push up to the yellow area, it will spawn the enemy team back left or back right, and then you pretty much got them in the same spawn trap that we've been talking about this whole video so far. So if you are trying to attack this P2 from the blue side, you really want to be clearing anyone out of these yellow areas. So I'd like to maybe push through P1, and then from that way you can then push around the back. You manage to get spawns to the purple here. If both an enemy team and a friendly team are blocking this purple-pink spawn and maybe the yellow spawn, you will find sometimes you get parallel spawns. So one team maybe will spawn over at P1, one team will spawn P5. So it's a case of just looking at your cross, and you'll probably see them run across like so. But generally speaking, if you're on the blue side wanting to hit the P2, you want to, first of all, make sure there's no one in the yellow areas, and then make sure you're clearing the pink area to make sure that your enemies are able to spawn in. And then from there, you can break to P2. Now, when it gets to 15, maybe 10, 15, 20 seconds left, you want to be making sure that nobody is blocking this pink spawn. As soon as your team get a kill, when no one on your team is blocking this pink spawn, as long as P2 is up, they will spawn in the purple. Where will you spawn when you die? You will spawn in yellow or blue, which means you've got the perfect setup to P3, which is right over here. Now, P3 spawns can be a little bit tricky, but it is an absolute money hill. To be fair, so was P2, but P3 is an absolutely disgusting money hill. There are only 3 ways in which they can attack you, and you've got 4 people on the team, so it's an easy peasy hold. Now, the primary spawns, which are the spawns you're going to want, again, are highlighted in pink. You spawn bottom ring or top ring around this general sort of area. P3 is obviously at the fountain, and there are some other spawns. So if nobody in your team is pushed out or watching these yellow rings, the enemy team can spawn really close. What can happen sometimes is that you've got a member of team on the P3 hill. They're flooded through P1. They're going into the pink area. Your spawn is going to be blocked from the pink area, even though you've got someone in P3. So what's going to happen? You're going to spawn in yellow, so then you can pinch like that. The same thing happens the other way. If you've got a teammate in P3 and the enemies are pushing through the left-hand side and the right, chances are you're going to spawn back here. However, if they're blocking this as well, you're either going to spawn bottom arch or in the open arch. They are the spawns you do not want. So let's say you've managed to get spawns, you've got favourable spawns, and you've managed to push out. The first thing you want to do, is hold this general area. So you get a couple kills P3, say you get a kill front, you get a kill at the archway on the left or the closed gate. You push through, and depending on which side you push through, depending on what yellow area you're sitting in, depends on where the enemy team are going to spawn. So let's say you get kills, you manage to push out a P3 while someone's on it and while someone's blocking, I might add, because if nobody's blocking this, the enemy team are available to spawn in here. So you want to make sure that you've got a teammate maybe top maps or in the ring, that sort of general area, to make sure that they can't spawn back here. So let's say you managed to clear out P5 area, which is near the horse. You pushed out to this ring, and as long as you're in this light blue section here, you will be blocking this open arch spawn, which means where will they be spawning? They will be spawning bottom arch. So from this horse header, you'll be able to see anyone running out of bottom arch here and potentially manage to see the cross if anyone crosses here. But the most important thing you're doing here is funneling them into one area. When you're here, the chance of them coming around and wrapping around, all the way through P2 up to this open arch is very slim. The chance that they're going to be running around P1. And from this info, you can let your teammates know who are holding this area that they're going to be coming through P1. On the flip side, if you manage to push out P1 way, you'll be blocking, as long as you're in this sort of blue square, the purple square here, the dark blue here, you'll be blocking spawns for bottom arch. Now, the enemy team will be spawning at P2, which means that you've got a nice line of sight across the whole of the map, managing to pick people off. You've probably been in this spawn trap before. But again, yeah, you're getting kills, you're spawning in there, great. But the main important thing with this is your teammates only need to watch one way. Your teammates know they're going to be spawning here. They need to either watch, 2 ways. Maps, because they can run into bottom maps and child top maps like this, or front. And then when you die, a teammate fills in, gets your trade, and then you get the same situation again. Now, let's say you didn't manage to rotate properly. You've got bad spawns. The first thing you want to be doing is clearing out the yellow areas. So once you've cleared the yellow areas, it opens them up. So any people on your team who are managing to move around the map, get some kills, and eventually die, as long as yellow's clear, they'll spawn yellow. And then the next step you want to do is try and push this hill here. Now, as I say, this is the blocking area. So what you want to be able to do is push through here, ideally, clear anyone top ring, full send 4 people here. Because at the end of the day, they're going to be spread across. You can have someone mats, maybe someone front, someone at a time, someone front, someone here. If you can get a 2, maybe 3 at push people pushing this right-hand side here, you'll break this easy. They'll be then spawning out. Teammate who's not pushed this side can then watch them growing off spawn, and it's a gunfight to the hill in P3. So P4, hopefully you've rotated properly here, and it's a very similar situation on P4. So it's going to look very similar to P2 here. So the primary spawns are these purple or pink rings, and you will spawn back 18, street, or maybe P1 if you're lucky. And in order to block those spawns, in order to block your enemy from spawning in those areas, which is what you want when you've got P4, you want to be sort of sat in this pink area here. So that's double steps, top rails, or sort of this side of the P4, backside of P4, really, behind the cannons. That'll be blocking these spawns, and the enemy team won't be able to spawn there. The enemy team will then be spawning either in yellow, light blue, or dark blue. The ideal spawn, the ideal situation is you'd want the enemy teams to be spawning in dark blue. Now, in order to do that, you need to make sure that nobody's leaked through. Because at the end of the day, you can be blocking these pink spawns, but an enemy team can spawn in the yellow if someone on the enemy team's managed to push through this side. So you want to be locking it down, really. So if you know an enemy team's pushed this side, be very sensitive to the fact that there may be someone spawning in this yellow ring. And in order to block that, if you can have someone in these back steps, they'll be doing 2 things. They'll be blocking this back spawn here, and they'll be blocking this P2 spawn, because they're not going to spawn someone in front of your line of sight. So if you're sat these back steps, you can watch people pushing into P4 through this door. You've got someone on hill, you've got someone P1 blocking these spawns. And then if you can get through P2, sitting in this blue area will block this light blue spawn. And that means the enemy team, as long as you've got this P4 blocked and no one's leaked through, the enemy team will be, this pink area, sorry, blocked. The enemy team will be spawning in the dark blue, which filters them into one line of sight just here. Now, if you've got someone P1 or top double, it's going to be free kills. They're going to be spawn trapped. They're going to get frustrated, and it's not ideal. And then let's say you want them to spawn in the light blue ring, which is not the ideal setup. You want to come to this P1. It will sort of block this area here. You can even venture through to this gate if you want to, but it's really not ideal. But that will basically spawn them here, and then you can pretty much watch them running across P2, similar to the last hard point we just had. So that's the situation if you're on the good side. If you're on the bad side, again, you want to be pushing out the yellow areas. So, or the pink. Basically, you want to be blocking, you want to be in the pink or yellow areas to ensure that the enemy team, when they've died, they can't spawn back there. So let's say all of your team have managed to get out this half of the map safely, which is the ideal situation. You've managed to get a couple people P2, maybe one bottom art roaming around, and let's say you're getting kills. If you can have somebody get into this P2 and you get someone blocking this back spawn like here, the enemy team are forced to spawn out, which is ideal. That's the value of playing your life. If you've got someone maybe not getting kills, but playing their life in this pink area, the enemy team won't be able to spawn here. They'll be spawning in Narnia back here. They'll have an absolute marathon to run to get to P4. But essentially, it still comes down to winning gunfights. If you're not winning gunfights, you're not going to be able to break hills. You're not going to be able to confirm spawns, and you're not going to be able to rotate. So bear in mind, these are valuable tips, but you need to be able to shoot straight and win your gunfights. Moving on to P5. It's a bit of a bizarre situation because it's very arguable depending on whether or not it's favourable or not. Some people think that the blue spawns are favourable. Some people think the pink spawns are favourable. In my humble opinion, especially considering that P1, you want these back spawns here for P1, which is in this yellow ring. Pink spawns are favourable in my opinion. One, because of what I mentioned, because of the P1 rotation. And secondly, from this side of the map, you can pretty much see the entire hill, unless they're hidden behind a box or they're hidden behind the open door here, which you can still wallbang. They are hidden, they are open. Anyone on the enemy team will be able to be seen from this side of the hill. However, on the blue side, it's not quite so easy for you to see hill. I think it's easier for you to potentially get on the hill from the blue side, but if the enemy team managed to get on it, they're spawning back here. You're not being able to get them off as quickly as possible. So we're going into this with the mindset that the pink spawns are favourable. In order to block these pink spawns, you don't really want anyone spawning back here on the enemy team because they're going to get rotation to new, they're going to be behind you. You want someone sat in either closed or open, or generally in either of these circles at all, and yeah, you'll be blocking from that point of view. There is a situation in which if an enemy manages to get through from the blue team, but you are blocking pink spawns, the enemy team can spawn here. If that happens, well, in order to stop that happening, you need someone in this yellow situation here, which watching the P1. But generally speaking, as long as you're not letting anybody through, that shouldn't happen. And similarly, on the flip side, if let's say you spawn in this yellow ring, the information you have from that point is that someone's spawned in this big blue ring, and someone on the enemy team is also at P2. Because otherwise you'd have spawned in either of those. So the only reason you'd spawn yellow is if you've getting pinched on both sides of the hard point. So yeah, good information. But in order to block these spawns, you want to have someone maybe top doubles, top trees, or maybe top double steps. And then yeah, if you're on purple, if you're on the pink side, don't worry about getting onto the hill too much. Worry about getting your kills, winning your gunfights, baiting the blue team onto the hard point, killing them off of it. Because again, as I said, you can see every single angle on the hard point pretty much. And with good teamwork and good team nades, you should be able to clear it, then push forward, and then you've really only got this side and this side to watch. And then from there, you should be able to, then rotate to P1 when the time arises. So I hope that helps. I hope that sort of covers it and gives you an idea of how to block and rotate and play spawns properly on our Bagra Fortress. If there's anything you feel like I've missed or isn't quite right, please let me know. But as I say, the situations I've given you here will cover 99% of situations. So yeah, they should be helpful. That's going to do it for today's video. I hope you enjoyed. I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.